Okay, you guys, it is October 28th, 2019. Welcome to the Crush Nation team call. My name is Shalene McLeod, and I'm hosting this call alongside Rachel and Joe on behalf of the Fitzpatricks. Before we get started with tonight's call and we welcome our guest speaker, Erin, I would like to just give you guys an update on the family and everything that has happened in the past 24 hours with the Fitzpatricks. So as you may or may not have heard, Jamie did suffer a heart attack on Sunday afternoon. He is in stable condition. He was found by his daughter, and Kim had performed CPR until the paramedics had gotten there. They got there, they rushed him off to the hospital, and they sedated him for the night just to kind of keep everything calm, his brain activity low, his heart rate. He was put into emergency surgery and had a stent placed into his heart as well. There was an 80% blockage in his heart, so in one of the arteries going into his heart. So he's in good hands. He was taken care of so beautifully, and everyone acted so quickly. He is good. He is awake today. He is breathing on his own. He is moving on his own. The family has said that they feel so incredibly blessed and so grateful for everyone for praying for them. They felt the power of your prayers. So thank you guys so much. Looks like he's expected to make a full recovery on this. So it's an incredible news, amazing news. We're so happy for him. This was definitely a really scary time for the family and for all of Crush It too. I know how worried everyone was about Jamie and the family. We are using the hashtag #SweatForFitzFamily. If you guys haven't used that, you can show your support and appreciation by using that hashtag. Jamie and Kim are so inundated with messages at this time that we are, sorry guys, someone's maxed out. They're inundated with messages at this time. So we just ask that you guys not tag them, not DM them at this time, just kind of respect that they have decided to really lay low. They're spending time with just the family. It is really quiet. And I know that they're really overwhelmed by that. So if we can use the hashtag instead, I think that would be really great. And we can really just support them that way. The other thing that Kim has asked for us to pass along is if you do not, or you have never taken a CPR course, she is really asking that you guys go sign up for a local course. That is her one wish. It is something that we can all have in our tool belts, and it can save a life anywhere we are. So that is her wish for us, is that we go and we take a CPR course. For those of you that want to donate to the family, or you would like to help out in some way, we're going to post details tomorrow in Crush It, but we are going to set up a meal service for the family because they're going to need lots of help over the next little while. So we'll post details in the Crush Nation Facebook page tomorrow on how you guys can contribute to that if you would like to send something to the family and help them out. Besides that, I'm going to pass this over to Joe. I just want you guys to know that this really should make you lean into your why. And this is the power of our community, the power of our team. We have all come together during this time. This is what Jamie and Kim have built. And I'm honored to be a part of this. I'm honored to be sitting here beside each and every single one of you. And I know that this is the legacy that they have left behind. And this is the type of legacy that I want to build as well. And I know all of you do too. So let's use that slight edge. Let's use the powers of time and just allowing ourselves that time to grow. But let's keep going. Let's keep moving forward. And let's keep doing it not only for us, but for the Fitzpatricks. So Joe, I'm going to hand it over to you. I'm going to try and open this up. Apparently there's some people I can't get on, but I'm going to hand it over to you for recognition. So go ahead and take over.
Awesome. Shalene kept it together really good. I probably will not. I'm just going to piggyback off of what she said. We're part of an amazing community, guys. And the fact that other coaches that are in the business, in the community, in the network have reached out is something that is just amazing. I mean, amazing. And Jamie means a lot to me in a lot of ways. He's our mentor, right? He's our friend. He's our upline. But most importantly, he's our friend. And we're all here coming together for him. Here we are in a call where more people are wanting to hop on. Like, this is that important. This is what he's created. And I love the fact that we're keeping it going. And I'm honored to be doing this and included in here with all of you guys. But that's all I want to say, because I know the rest, I'm probably going to start crying. So if anybody has any kind of recognition, please take yourselves off mute. I have one. I just want to go ahead and recognize my team, my girls, because they've all stepped up. They've all just been amazing, checking in our chat and, helping as many people as possible and starting those conversations that, quite often could be a little tough at times. And I understand that, especially, if we're new, and even if we're not new. Sometimes with things that are happening in life, it sets you back sometimes. And then you start to doubt and you start to say, well, can I do this? And that's where PD comes in. And I can't stress it enough. And this is coming from, right, all the calls I've been on with Jamie and Kim. If you're not doing PD, it's going to be really hard to advance yourself in this business. And it's really important. I was the one who used to roll my eyes at it. So it is so important to fill your mind with good and positive thoughts. So that way you can pass that on to others, especially if you're trying to build a team. So anyway, with that being said, if anybody wants to take themselves off mute, whatever you guys want to talk about, please do. Recognize your teams.
Hey, I don't know if she's on because we capped it at 100, but if my new coach Natasha's on here, welcome. Yeah, I just want to say welcome to her. And if anybody else has any rank advancements, please take yourself off mute.
I have one tonight. I am super excited to share on the team that my girl Cresta has hit Emerald. She was in our Push to Emerald group, and if you give her a goal, she becomes laser focused, and she was super excited to hit it by the deadline. And when she called me to celebrate, she literally was like, okay, what's next? So I'm super excited to congratulate her, and I can't wait to continue building this business with her and see how far she goes. So congrats to Cresta.
Awesome, congrats. Go ahead, guys, you can take yourselves off mute.
I will go. I just love this team, first of all. And I'm gonna try not to cry. But we had a rank advancement on the Uplift Tribe. Caitlin Molinax is Emerald. Congrats. And we have a new coach, Nicole Saltzman. So welcome. You can see how incredible the community you've joined is in support of Jamie this week. So Crush Nation, I'm thankful for you. And I'm specifically thankful that the Uplift Tribe is a part of this team.
I just want to do a couple of recognitions for Kim. Just want to recognize Angie Pringle, as well as, Tammy, I'm going to butcher your name. We'll just say Tammy. They both rank advanced to Emerald last week, so just passing on congrats to you from Kim.
Anyone else, guys?
So if there's nobody else for recognition, I'm just going to quickly go over what we're planning over the next few weeks. Please remember that on Friday, Peppermint Mocha is coming out. If you go, actually, if I remember, I'll post it tonight. If not, tomorrow morning. There is a Peppermint Mocha tracking sheet. If you're in the Beachbody Canada Coaches group, it's there as well. Jake posted it about 4 hours ago. You can go in there and find it, but it's a great way to keep track of everyone who wants to pre-order peppermint mocha, and a great way for you to follow up as well and collect emails. So it's the same kind of thing with pumpkin spice. It's a 14-pack box. There is no limit to how many orders you can place, but each order can only have 5 boxes. So you can go to town if you really want to. I tasted it. It's really good. And then also the Crush It leaders are working on a large challenge group for the work. We're planning for a November 11th start date. So start promoting it in your stories, talk about it, put polls in your stories, start talking to your own community, because that is such a wealth of people that are eager to try new programs. And the Crush It leaders, there's I think about 7 or 8 of us. We're gonna run the work group. So just, you can throw your people in there. You just kind of got to keep track and keep motivating them. And if you need any resources for that, please let us know. Go to your back office, lots of resources in there as well. And remember, guys, whenever there's a new product launch, this is your opportunity. It doesn't have to be your jam. It's totally okay if you're not going to do the work, but don't discount that there are lots of people out there that will want to do it. I'm doing it right now. You won't die, I promise. So if you have any questions, again, reach out to the leaders, reach out to your upline, and they can help you start to promote the work on social media and within your communities. And I just wanted to give a shout out, and she's not on because it is, hold on, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, it's 2 a.m. in the UK. But Liz had a team call today with her team, and she just had the most beautiful words to say about Jamie. And I think she would appreciate me saying this, but oh God, sorry. Jamie calls me the team crybaby, so it's obviously going to happen. He's like I'd say he's like our big brother to each and every one of us. And, you know, if you're new to this team, I think the last 24 hours has really proved that you've joined the right crew. Like, we got you and we're family. And I just wanted to put it out there that Liz did a beautiful job today on that call talking about what Jamie has built. So on that note, let's get learning, because earlier today we were talking about it, and Jamie will be really pissed if we stop working. So Shalene, if you want to introduce Erin.
Absolutely. You guys, we are so excited to have Erin be on this call with us and to learn from her this evening. A little bit about Erin. Erin is the author and digital entrepreneur. 2018, she released the empowerment book. It's called How to Get Shit Done, Why Women Need to Stop Doing Everything So They Can Achieve Anything. Since 2008, she's been the editor-in-chief and co-owner of Pick the Brain. Pick the Brain is not only a great passion project, but is also one of the most trusted self-improvement websites and communities on the web. There are over 400 bloggers from around the world that contribute content, and it has been named over 100 best of the web lists, and it contributes to more than 35 countries daily. Erin really does take leadership role in that space, and she's become a powerful global voice and brand in the self-improvement space. I could go on and on and on with the accolades for Erin, but I think we'll just start with most recently. She's co-founded a new progressive political media company as well called We the People. She's a Canadian living in Los Angeles, repping the Canadians. I love it, with her baby George as well. So Erin, thank you so much for being on this call. I'm going to hand this over to you if you want to unmute yourself, and you can talk about how to get shit done.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for the nice introduction, and thank everybody that has joined the call today. I'm sure you saw this on your end, but there was some messages that people couldn't get on. I'm sure you saw those. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So we're live over on Facebook as well with this call. So hopefully we've got
it covered. Cool. Awesome. Great. Well, I want to thank everybody so much for taking the time out to chat with me tonight. I also feel, really touched and fortunate to be part of this exact moment of your team. I haven't known Kim a long time, but we've been in pretty much constant contact over the last month since she kind of stumbled across my book, and it's just been a pleasure to get to know her and what her and Jamie have built. And so again, it's just a testament to them how strongly everybody on this call feels about them and what they're doing. And I think while it may feel strange to kind of be business as usual and have this call, at first I was like, oh boy, I don't know if should I be, doing this? But upon reflection, I felt that it was really important. And without sounding hokey, when things like this happen, you just realize how precious time is. And it's these types of moments that make you stop, hopefully, and reflect, where am I? How did I get here? And what do I want to do? And all these really important questions that we so often are not reflecting upon. And for some people go unanswered an entire lifetime. And so that is kind of the idea. And that's why I thought that it was kind of fitting that the show must go on tonight, because the kind of underlying theme of my book is it's not about getting more stuff done. The title is actually somewhat misleading, right? It's the tagline, which is really important, and it's really important in this context, which is it's not about getting more done. It's about getting more of the right stuff done. And that is a completely different discipline. So, I mean, I'm not exactly sure where to start. I figured maybe I just tell you guys a little bit about me, talk about the genesis of the book and kind of the larger themes, and then kind of open this up to questions. I'm not sure if that's, kind of the format, because Kim and I actually were in kind of mid-discussion about that, and then obviously things got cut short. So if that sounds good to everybody there, that's what I'll do.
Yeah, Erin, that sounds great. If you want to start with a little bit about yourself, how you got started, and that would be great.
Yeah. So, you heard off the top of in the introduction, all of the kind of things that I've done, but I'll tell you a little bit of my personal story, which goes something like this. First of all, yes, I live in Los Angeles, but I'm a very, very, very patriotic and proud Canadian. So I never miss an opportunity to let anybody know that I'm Canadian. I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And then lived in Toronto and Montreal for quite a while, and now my whole family lives in Vancouver. So when I go back to Canada, I go to Vancouver mostly. But growing up in Winnipeg, I was your typical kind of straight A student, kind of type A, out there collecting trophies, that kind of stuff, valedictorian, head girl, was just going. And I had this little voice inside of me that was very, very quiet, would pop up every once in a while, and it would kind of say, not in English words, but in more like feelings, like, you're very creative, do something creative. And I kind of ignored it for a while. And then while still doing a lot of school stuff, I did start to kind of explore that creative side of myself. I started being a stand-up comedian when I was 16. Started writing sketch comedy and stuff like that, but was still very much on a fast track. I went to McGill, graduated, and on the eve of me going to Osgoode Hall Law School in Toronto, I kind of had this epiphany and was like, I want to write. That's what I want to do. I'm not going to law school. I'm going to listen to this voice. I did that in Toronto for 4 or 5 years, much to my parents' chagrin, and then decided that if I really wanted to make it, I had to move to Los Angeles. So I moved to Los Angeles with big dreams and no plan. And 7 years later, I found myself in the fetal position in my bathroom, on my bathroom floor, right out of a terrible Hollywood rom-com, crying because I had $0 in my bank account. I didn't have a car. My house was being foreclosed on, and my visa was up. And I really could not believe that. I really thought I had messed up, like big time. Well, I had messed up. I was, I wouldn't have ended up where I was if I hadn't have messed up, but I couldn't figure out how. And the scariest part for me was not that I didn't have money or a car or any of that stuff. It's that I had listened to this little voice inside of me that I, at this point, trusted implicitly above all else, and that seemed to have failed me. And when you think that little voice inside of you, which is really like a compass, has failed you, you don't know where to go. And so I did not know what I was going to do. I was in a state of panic. I was like, I guess I'll go back to Canada, try and go to law school. I don't even know. I'm like, was so much older then. And I remember I called up 2 of my mentors and told them the predicament I was in, probably through tears. And I said, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And both of them, unrelated, said, you got to double down on that voice. And I said, you're crazy. What are you talking? Look at what I'm looked at. Look where I am. And they both said, that's the only, you got to find a better way, but that's the only thing you can listen to. All the other stuff doesn't matter. And so I said to myself, okay, I'm going to send out 100 Craigslist jobs. I don't know if you have that in Canada, but it's like a job board. So 100 resumes on Craigslist. I'll see what happens. And if nothing happens, I have to go back to Canada. Literally, my visa's up. So I sent out 100. I got 1 response back. That was for a $15 an hour copywriting job at a self-improvement website. And this is like 2008. And this is when the internet and the websites and blogging is really taking off. And I thought, this is not the writing job that I moved down to Los Angeles for, but it's take this or go back to Canada. I decided I was going to take it. But the difference was I was going to put a plan around it. I was going to do whatever I could to try and take this little seemingly shitty job and turn it into something. And that's exactly what I did. Cut to 7 years later, and Pick the Brain is now flourishing. I've raised $1 million for my other company, Leaf TV, which we sold to a publicly traded company called Demand Media, which is now trading as the Leaf Group. So big success story there. And I sitting at my computer, and I got a call from a big time New York lit agent who said, hey, we want you to write a book. And I was so excited. I was so over the moon. 15 years after moving to Los Angeles, my dream of writing had come true. I scheduled the call, sat down with them, had a lot of ideas I wanted to pitch. And the agent said to me, I said, so what are we writing about? What am I doing? I got this. And they said, well, you're going to tell the story of you. And I was so disappointed and deflated. And I said, what are you talking about? Like, what? And she said, well, you've done this and you've done this and you've done this and you've done this. And I couldn't even hear what she was saying. I was just like, I was so disappointed. I got off the phone. And the next morning I went to my office. I looked around, this is the Leaf office. I looked around at all of the other women I was working with, and I had this epiphany, like we're all suffering from the same disease. We're just going, but we're not stopping to recognize anything, yet alone appreciate anything. So what's the point? There's no point, right? If you're just going through the motions, again, out there, it was like I replicated my younger childhood days of just going out there and like, I want A's, I want this debating trophy, I want this thing, but it doesn't mean anything if you A, don't acknowledge it, and B, don't appreciate it. And it was in that moment that I was like, there's a book here. I don't know the answers, but as I'm writing it, I'm going to try and figure it out. And so the biggest kind of takeaway, or at least the starting point, was I didn't even know who I was anymore. I didn't know how I got to where, I could tell you literally how I got to where I got, but like what was the map? What was the journey? What were the learnings? I had no idea. And where did I really want to go? And so that's where I really started to look at redefining this term, productivity. Now, of course, you can't throw the word productivity out because it exists in every major dictionary. But if you look at the word itself, productivity, it is product-centered, right? It has nothing to do with the human condition or the human way of being, right? And so the more productive you are, in my opinion, in the traditional definition of input versus output, the more you are separating from your true identity, right? It's product-centric, not person-centric. And so I find this particularly true when we look at females in the work in general, but specifically in the workplace. Like for so long, we have, first of all, we're relatively new to the workplace. You know, it's only like 40 or 50, 60 years. That's pretty new, like if you look historically. And so we've tried to fit into a system that was built for men and by men. And it's a great system, but it's not, for the last 40, 50 years, we've been trying to fit into that system. And it's only since the real like blow up of the internet and social media that's kind of cracked those traditional hierarchies open. It's allowed some light to get in where we can start to flex our muscle and our creative muscles and voice and find ways around these traditional kind of workplace structures so that we can get us a career that works for us, as opposed to just constantly trying to fit into something that was never really 100% designed for us. And so the first step in that, though, is really doing a critical deep dive on and a self-exploration of who you are, what you want, and where you want to go. And I don't mean that in like a cursory way. I mean in a kind of in a process. I talk about this a lot in the book. But there's a kind of a longer process where you're asking yourself the tough questions, and you got to be willing to say, ooh, you know, oh God, I've been doing some stuff wrong, you know, not consciously, but because I haven't been conscious at all. And so, and so I talk about this idea of the POP effect, or the POP system, which is the way to redefine productivity. And so POP stands for 3 different things. The first P is personality. That's that self-discovery piece, really understanding, what am I good at? What do I want to do? Where do I want to be? The O is for the opportunity, which is, what is the opportunity, given all of these traits that I have identified and these goals that I want, what is the opportunity right here and now for me to start acting on those? And when you put those 2 together, you can start creating your own definition of personal productivity, as opposed to like global objective productivity. And so I think that is a far more valuable place to start, especially when goal setting and kind of vision boarding, or, you know, mapping out where you want to go. It's kind of difficult to start, right? And so they're actually in the book, I'm not sure how many people on the call have read the book, but in the book there are worksheets to kind of get you asking the questions that are thought-provoking and get you to start thinking kind of in the right direction. I suggest picking 3 big goals. Again, it's not about doing as much as you can. It's about really identifying the things that speak to your core values and who you are as a person, and being razor focused about spending most of your day working on those 3 things. 3 is kind of a magic number for me. It's not locked in stone. It could be 4, it could be 2, but you don't want to ever be working really seriously towards more than 4 major goals. That just feels like a lot. And there's only so many hours in the day. And I also think that you should spread those goals across the major buckets, like your career, your personal, and then like a relationship goal. Not necessarily romantic. It can be a friendship, a family thing, but something that you really want to cultivate and work on. And then the same thing with a personal goal, whether that's a side hustle or a hobby, whether it's fitness, that would obviously be mostly your main goals. That's your career goal, but and then a career goal. And you should be working on, you know, short, medium, and long-term goals, constantly checking in and constantly pivoting, right? Because as you move forward in a really conscientious way, you start learning things that you don't want to be locked in stone to your plan. You want to be open to the learnings and to the experiences you've had to be able to make small pivots. That ultimately is going to get you to really unexpected places, things that you could never today have predicted. And so while you will have your main long-term goals, you've got to be open to life and life's experiences to take you to very magical and unexpected places. The next thing, once you've discovered those 3 major goals, is I talk about this in the book. So you write down the 3 major goals, right? And then I talk about a 7-day time challenge in the book, where basically it's very simple. It's like a food diary, except you write down everything you're doing from the time you wake up till the time you go to bed. Obviously with the exclusion of like going to the bathroom and stuff like that, but like, you know, the major beats of your day. How much time are you spending in the car driving? How much time are you, you know, at the office? What are you doing in those hours? By the time you get to day 7, you will be shocked. Your jaw will drop when you hold up how you're spending your time versus on the other page, the 3 goals. And when you look at that, you will say, I am spending 80% of my time not doing these 3 things. That's backwards. So from then on, you can start carving out a plan. And this isn't an overnight thing, right? You can't just be cutting responsibilities out of your life, like on the fly. But you're going to have to start making some pivots and some choices so that after a certain amount of time, whether it's a month or 2, when you hold up that new 7-day time challenge and your goals, it's about 80% on the 3 goals and 20% the rest of life, you know, just because life is life and you got to deal with life, and that's not always in alignment with your goals. So that's a really, really good starting point, is just mapping out, kind of doing this personality profile on yourself, and then really being clear about how you're spending your time, comparing the 2, and then starting to chart out a plan from there. So the next thing I want to say is, people are always talking about time management and how you're spending your time. The other really important aspect to this is not just how you're spending your time, but who you're spending your time with. And it's really, really important to be precious about the people you're letting in your life, because they can either be the greatest source of energy or total energy sucks. And the thing is, when you don't have an awareness around that, you just start dialing in these relationships, just like you're dialing in your day-to-day tasks. And so there are a couple of litmus tests in the book. For example, I have one, like, if my phone rings in the middle of a work day and I look at the call display, I can either be like, ugh, and that's a, what's that all about, right? Or you go, oh my God, I got to take this. And you're like pumped and you're jazzed. So start paying attention to the reactions you're having to friends and colleagues, and start making real changes. It doesn't mean cutting people out of your life, but you teach people how to treat you. So that friend that you've got the eye roll in the middle of the day, why is she calling me? She's calling you because you're answering, right? Stop answering in the middle of the day. I guarantee you she'll stop calling in the middle of the day. Start taking her calls only at 7 o'clock at night, and that's when she's going to start calling you. And understand, you don't have to have some big conflict, but these little micro behaviors can set you really on the right course. And then in the big larger sense, you want to be consciously working on the relationships that are really that contribute to you, that help you flourish, and that you help them flourish. It's got to be a two-way street. And then, you know, minimizing the ones that don't. Sometimes those choices can be hard, but that's part of the responsibility of trying to live your fullest life, right? It's not always going to be skipping through a flower field. Sometimes you have to have tough conversations. But that, you know, the flip side of that is you just keep going through the motions. And there's a big difference between getting to the end of the day and being tired, because if you're doing something you love, you're going to be tired. Presumably you're going to be out there doing it, dedicated. The difference, though, is you don't want to be exhausted, because exhausted cumulatively is not sustainable. And so if you're getting home at the end of the day and feeling day after day exhausted as opposed to tired, you really got to check in with how you're spending your time and who you're spending your time with. And I think you'll also be surprised to find that a lot of that drainage comes from taxing relationships. Even if it's like a 5-minute call in the middle of the day, I'm sure all of us have had this experience where it can just set you off in the wrong mood, where you're just like, oh God, like there's something on you that, pay attention to that, right? And pay attention, conversely, pay attention to the things, the interactions you have with people where you it can be very short, but all of a sudden you feel like you got a second wind immediately. These things are really telling and really, really important. Generally, the whole thing comes down to an awareness of how you're spending your time and who you're spending your time with. And finally, I hope it goes without saying, it feels like with this group that this feels like it's probably built in, but this idea of mentorship and really finding people, so not just your existing relationships, but finding those 1 or 2 voices that you really trust, that are in some way invested in you and your success, whether that's professional or personal or both, ideally, that you can go to for advice. Because that's the one thing that kind of saved me. I know when I was, as I talked at the top, in my darkest kind of moment, it was like, if I didn't have those conversations, I would not be sitting here talking to you today. For sure not. I would be, God only knows what I'd be doing. So yeah, not only is it important to find a mentor, I think it's equally as important to be a mentor to somebody, to flip that a role, because it's very empowering, it's very rewarding. And as somebody is asking you for your own advice, it's your advice. Those are such great teachable moments. What's your gut reaction? What are the things I have to say on this? Again, it's kind of peeling back the layers of the onion to discover a new an invigorating part of yourself. Yeah, I think I can talk longer, but I'd love to open it up to questions.
No, thank you. That was incredible. I took a million notes. A couple things that I really just wanted to touch on, and then we'll open it up to questions. I loved when you said, kind of doing that like deeper dive into your own personality and who you are, what you want, and where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, I always dreamed of, as a little girl, being a mom. That was my dream. Like that was my vision. And then I became a mom and I was like, now what? Like this is cool. And I love my family. My kids are great. And my marriage is good. Like, but I feel like I have more to give. Right. And so I think that piece of where do you want to go is a very hard question, but one that is just so important to answer, because I feel like we get stuck in that lost feeling. Is that common?
Yeah, totally. And just to add on to that, I feel like it's just so funny. Like, I'm not sure how many people on the call went to university, like that kind of more traditional path like I did. But it is funny in the larger sense, like, you know, when you're 18 years old, you're asked, like, what do you want to study? What do you want to be? And you might take your first year to kind of feel it out, and then you lock into something. And then, but that's like really the only time, we never really check back. It's like, this is what we're doing. And then that's why at 40 years old or 45 years old, people are having nervous breakdowns and midlife crises all over. Well, of course, because you're listening to a 17-year-old or an 18. You're still listening to a teenager's vision of what you should be, which gets me to this idea of the shoulds, right? So many of us have grown up as small children, young women, young men, with these shoulds in our lives, whether they're coming from parents or society or peers, of what we should be. And that kind of gets spun into the subconscious narrative, I should be doing this, I should be doing this. And that's where you get farther and farther away. Well, forget the should. I would use a harsher word there, but I'm not sure about this group. Well, forget the should. What do I want? Where do I want to go? Who cares? I'm a white 19-year-old Canadian girl. Well, I take the should out of it. What do I want? Who am I, for God's sakes? I'm not a collection of cumulative shoulds. And that's what's so, even going to university for many people is a should, right? Well, I'm graduated high school, I should go to college. It's like that kind of thing. And look, I'm the biggest fan of education there is. I can sing the praises of, I'm doing a master's right now of psychology just because. So I'm like big into that world, but that doesn't mean it's for everybody, especially with these emerging markets. So don't just jump into something because you're just dialing in your life. And it's hard. Like at 35, let's say, you haven't checked in with yourself about what career you want to do, and you sit down and you do this self-analysis, and then you go, oh my God, I don't even think I should be doing this. Like, that's really hard to pivot, because you're like, oh my God, did I just lose, 10 years? You didn't, but you can't unknow what you now know. So if you continue to do the same thing you did yesterday, you will be losing that time. There was no loss of time up until this point, but once you have awareness, now, if you don't make changes, you will be wasting time. And so it's never too late to have these real moments with yourself, right? You could be 60 and have this moment. You could be 18 and decide on this call and deciding whether you want to go to college. There's no wrong. It's always the right time to do this deeper dive. And by the way, it's very, very difficult to do these deeper dives. There's so much chaos around us, whether it's Instagram scrolling or Facebook or with these online businesses, we're on 24 hours a day, really. We could be if we wanted to, right? So it's hard to slow it down, but it is incumbent upon you, if you want real clarity, to find those moments, whether they're through meditation or taking walks or taking baths or whatever it is. You got to find what's right for you to be able to calm your mind down, because everybody has the little voice and the answers inside of them. The people that never hear those voices, it's because their heads are cluttered with chaos. The second you take the chaos, even for 20 minutes a day out, all of a sudden the answer comes. There's no magic bullet. Take away the chaos of your mind, find whatever your thing is. For me, it's meditation. That's not for everybody. Find that, and the answers will come. Dedicate yourself to it, and the answers will come.
I have chills. You hit on so many good points there. I'm one of those people, and I think a lot of us in here we're busy, go. We don't give ourselves that time to process and be creative and just think. I think we're almost afraid of it.
Yeah.
At a deeper level, right?
The farther you get separated from yourself, the scarier it is to try and pull yourself back. It's like it becomes this big, great unknown of like, God, that's why we're scheduling things out. Like, we don't have a minute of silence. God forbid we sit with ourselves for a second, because we don't know what we're going to see. Well, I'm telling you, just rip the Band-Aid off. Nothing's going to be as scary as waking up at 70 going, I missed an entire life. So rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, amen to that. I also really love that you talk about your time tracker and talking about who you're spending your time with. Are they giving you energy, or are they sucking the energy away from you? And becoming really aware of those reactions. I think that's a really key takeaway that we can take, and just become aware of that over the next couple of weeks. Like, how are you reacting when a message comes in? And I think specifically for our business, a lot of us are just on all the time, and we feel like we have to respond immediately. And so I think it's a really great takeaway that we can just set those boundaries in our business as well. And when are you responding to people, and when are you giving your family your time, and how are you respecting kind of those boundaries? So it sounds like there's a way to kind of walk through that in the book, right?
Yes, definitely.
Perfect.
Definitely. And actually, I mean, spoiler alert, that's the second book that I'm working on is all about creating those boundaries.
That's awesome. I do have one more question, then I'll open it up to somebody else. Can men get anything out of reading your book?
Totally. I think, first of all, this most certainly is not a book that is in any way hating on men. I have the utmost respect for everything that has been created. And I personally have had the most amazing, most of my mentors have actually been men. They've just been doing this a lot longer. Honestly, they have a great wisdom and perspective. They inherited a system. They didn't necessarily create it. And I think that, first of all, all of the technical tips about the time tracking and the outsourcing and all of that stuff, that doesn't matter man or woman. These are very usable tips that you can apply. I also think, though, I think it's really important for men to understand where we're coming from also. And I think this can just lead to a greater understanding and acceptance, and really like a celebration of like, hey, we're all bringing different things to the table. It's not a fixed pie. It's not a zero-sum game. Creativity and success is limitless. You know, it's just, we've got to have a better understanding of both, you know, how both work, and how then we can understand how better to work together. And so, yeah, no, I think there's a lot in it for men, for sure.
I love that. It's not one or the other. It's us collaborating together.
Yeah. You know, I will say, I talk about this in the book, I am very, very impressed. Like, men are built so differently. Like, they are able to compartmentalize, in the sense that, like, when they're done, they're done. When they go out for a beer at night, they're having a beer. They're not in their minds spinning like, there's 6 emails I didn't get to. If I send this, I can go to the bathroom, I can pee, I can send it. This is not happening. This is why there's not this collective exhaustion, right? When they're done a work project and they hit send on the email, they're done. They're moving on. What are we doing? We're carrying bags, like lugging it through, you know, metaphorically, just adding on to like, oh, I could have done that better. You know what? If I phrase this, should I have sent it at 9 o'clock at night? No, I should probably send it. Like, this is not happening for men. And this is, in my opinion, something to aspire to, right? Like girls, get it together. You know what I mean? Let it go. There is an end to every project. Move on. When you're going out for a drink with your girlfriend, don't spend the whole night about your work and how shitty your boss is. And like, that's not, like, let it go and talk about whatever is like particularly interesting to the dynamic of that relationship, right? That's how you're going to foster those relationships that help bring you up. Like, yeah, I'm like all on team man on the way that they can do that.
It's so funny. My husband's sitting here and he's laughing because you're like spot on.
Yeah.
Spot on.
Well, yeah, thank you. That's true.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions? I could sit here and pick your brain all night, but does anybody else have any other questions? No?
I blew them away.
I have another one. I'll just ask one last one.
Okay, sure.
We can kind of wrap this up. Was this always your vision?
You know, it's funny because, like, I think so. There was always that little voice that I talked about that was do something creative. I certainly didn't see it. I wasn't able to, like, visualize it when I was young. As I got older, it started to become very clear to me that I wanted to do something creative. That's why I started doing stand-up and then started writing and all these things. And I didn't know exactly how I was going to get there. It took me some hard lessons to figure it out. But yes, well, it feels like this was all very meant to be, all very forecasted. Again, the line was not like that. It was like this. That's the other thing. This is exactly where you want to be, right? All these failures are just teachable moments. It's about your perspective, and it can hurt and it can sting and you can feel like, oh man, but if you can learn from these things, then you just keep getting higher, and you'll always have, honestly, you always want a little bit of you never want to just be coasting, because then it becomes unimportant. You start dialing it in. You've always got to be on your toes. You've always got to be able to, like, I really want this. And you can feel that only when you have a little bit of a failure, a little bit of a dip. It's like, no, I really want this still, and I'm going to fight for it. And what did I learn here? And so I think I got to exactly where I'm supposed to go. But again, it wasn't a straight line. It was really like a white knuckling it for a couple of moments.
I have a quick question. What do you think was your best mistake? Like the one you learned, like, your best lesson from?
Well, my best lesson most definitely was, when I hit rock bottom and I understood when I understood that that the power was in the little voice, but to be less woo-woo, it was to understand why I had failed when I'd come down in the first place. And it's not good enough to really want something. You've got to put a plan around it. You've got to have accountability about it. You've got to have benchmarks that show you you're going in the right direction. This floating like this is not sustainable. And it's a really chaotic place to be in your mind. So that's another benefit of like putting together steps to get somewhere, because there's a security in that. There's something to hold on to. There's something to grasp, and you don't feel like, so you're at the whim of anything that's around you. You've got control of where you're going for as much as anybody can ever have control, as we've seen with the Fitzpatricks. Like we don't really have any control. Control is kind of fake. But as a tactic, it's good to at least map that out, because that sense of control, whether it's true or not, is like the motivating catalyst to get to the next level. Otherwise, it's exhausting. You're not tired, you're exhausted.
We had another question come in actually from Facebook. We're live over there as well. So I'll just read it out loud. Liz asked, what do you do about family that you do the eye roll when they call? Sometimes
oh my goodness. This question was the catalyst for my new book, because I get this every time I talk about it. And it's a fabulous question, because it's not like you can go in with a machete and just start cutting people out of your life, especially when they're family, right? But number one, I don't care who they are. I don't care whether they gave birth to you. I don't care whether they're a third cousin. They still have to respect your boundaries. They can't respect your boundaries if you don't have any boundaries. And unless it's a crisis, calling in the middle of the workday, for example, if your work is important to you, is unacceptable. Again, I don't care if your mom breastfed you till you were 4. That's not acceptable, and you have to start drawing those boundaries. And again, it doesn't have to be some blowout over Thanksgiving dinner talking about boundaries. It can be as subtle as just changing your behavior about what you expect. Now, if those small changes don't work, then you're going to have a conversation. But honestly, the relationship can only get better through them. There might be some, friction and feelings hurt for a second, but if you're not being honest with somebody that's really important in your life anyways, what does that say about the relationship? And I'm as guilty of this as anybody, right? It's just so much easier to go like, oh, fuck, I'll just take the call. You know what I mean? It's like easier for me to take this call right now. I can get it over with and then get back to my work. But it's not really easier, because you're sending me this Facebook message right now at 10 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? So it's there. And so yeah, again, it's like you do have to draw strong boundaries, and you don't have to be a dick about it. But you respect yourself if you want other people to respect you. And it's that simple. Doesn't matter family member or not.
Thank you. That's a really great point. And I feel like that is something that comes up often, especially with being an entrepreneur. A lot of us are trying to build this business on top of having a full-time job. It's a lot. And just that time tracker and being very aware of where you're spending your time, but it's almost like those distractions without boundaries. The distractions never end.
As I always say, distractions are the death of creativity. You know, the more distractions you have in your life, the less creative you are. And creativity is really just an expression of your deepest self. So you want to get in touch with your deepest self, cut the distractions out. It's that simple. There's no way around that.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, going once. Any other questions? Time to set boundaries. Love it.
I just saw a comment. I can't see the end of it, but it said, I've just had about 20 distractions during this call. I don't know what the end of it says, but
I've had 20 distractions during this call alone. Time to set boundaries. I love it.
Yeah, girl.
That's so great. Okay. Well, Erin, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure.
We miss that. It's unfortunate that Jamie and Kim can't be here with us and with you on this call. But we really appreciate you showing up for us and pouring all of this knowledge. I know I'm going to go grab this book because it really spoke to my soul. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you guys. Thanks everybody.
Have a great night.
Bye.